Hi, I'm Tim Powell from Orlando, Florida. The sole purpose of this public video is to establish first prior art for the dual concepts of cardio concierge and equipment reservation, and second, to make the case that these two arguably patentable concepts are common sense in the fitness industry, thus negating the need for prior art or patentability of either or related concepts. Essentially, I'm bringing the ideas not currently being implemented to a current employer with the intention of improving my working conditions by suggesting a better operating procedure. However, at least one representative for my current employer at a higher pay grade made it clear that any ideas shared up the chain of command ultimately belong to the employer. I understand at a basic level intellectual property, and I have no desire to fight legislation as it stands, although I will say, in general, I find current patent, trademark, and corporate copyright laws, which are essentially intellectual property laws in general, they've devolved from their innovation-inspiring origins to weapons for the haves to beat the have-nots with. But I do tend to be liberally minded in general, and I'm willing to negotiate my beliefs with a sincere debater, also willing to be open-minded and try to see my points. In 2007, I was group exercise director for a large nonprofit in Orlando, Florida. In my first month in role, I implemented an equipment reservation system that had, to my knowledge, never been used before, either by, at that time, my employer or, for that matter, any other fitness business. To me, the concept of reserving a fixed resource at a specific time for a fixed amount of time seems obvious. The idea is akin to reserving specific seats on an airplane or specific seats in a theater. This concept has been present in other industries for decades. So I don't think it's a stretch to get from seat reservation for a specific Broadway show to a specific cycle in a stationary cycling studio on a specific date and time. I therefore argue that the concept of fitness equipment reservation for specific classes should be considered as obvious and thus a non-patentable intellectual concept. And it should be effectively argued, should it be effectively argued by anybody else that it truly is something that's worthy of patent, I would like to prove here and now with the documents I'm presenting that I have prior art. Going all the way back to July of 2007. I'm putting this video in the public view. My prior art was in the public view back in July of 2007 when it was used in a very public community center, family center. I have no current intention of enforcing intellectual rights unless by not doing so, I unintentionally allow someone else to claim intellectual rights, removing this concept from the public domain. In other words, I think this should be common sense and should be thought of as common sense, but in case any other entity or court or somebody else were able to prove or claim otherwise, I'm saying, hey, I got first. And I'm not doing it for personal gain. But lest I be locked out of using an idea that I was using back in 2007, that's when I was using it. All right, so let's look over here at our main screen. All right, you can see we've got a cycling studio layout. This is similar to a restaurant layout that a maitre d' might have or a host at your favorite Applebee's would have. Probably a bad example. They get ready to close down several stores. Why am I bringing up business news now? Anyway, so restaurant floor layout. Strike Applebee's from your thoughts. I shouldn't be bringing in another company's name. So you see here we've got 40 cycles, and one of them is the instructor cycle. It's just a geographical layout of the room so that somebody can view it without actually having to be in the room and figure out where they want to sit. The next sheet of paper I gave them was a very simple 5 instruction how to pick your bike list using that sheet and the next sheet, which is actually going to be the layout, not geographically, but of all the bike numbers where folks could put their name on it after they pick their favorite bike by looking at it, either knowing where it was in the room from previous experience or whatever the situation might have been. The sheet basically gave them all the bike numbers, the date, the time, the instructor, and just some very basic rules. I did give some more detailed rules that went along with this if there was any question in their mind about how things should go. And all these were available as documents in the Family Center or things that could be taken away with them if they wanted to. We give them some question and answers, and we give them question and answers with some basic guidelines. So this concept, equipment reservation in general in a fitness setting, to me, just using like a sign-up sheet or that same kind of a concept, and I believe this should extend over to electronically signing and using something as simple as a Google Docs form. This should be a simple concept. It should not be something that that anybody should be able to try to make money on or stop somebody else from using, because the concept is so common and so simple. Okay. Again, the point of this video is just for me to establish prior art in case somebody else tries to ever prevent me from using this in the future. I got it all the way back to July 2007, and I think this was in the industry before. I'm not claiming first, honestly. I'm sure there were a lot of folks doing this before I was. Let's look at one other related concept to cardio concierge. And the name cardio concierge actually doesn't even come from me. That comes from a CEO I had at the time. The CEO's idea of cardio concierge was a member in our fitness center would come to a wellness attendant who was designated like a restaurant host to assign out equipment based on your arrival time. So when you arrived, you would give the attendant your name. You would tell them what piece of equipment you wanted to be on. If it was available, boom, he would walk you to it with a towel, make sure you had water, make sure you had everything you need. There's the concierge end of things. But essentially, it's just an equipment assignation scheme. So it basically, you show up, you want a treadmill, I'll find you an open treadmill, I'll walk you to your treadmill, I'll make sure you have your towel and your water, but I'm going to write your name down, and I'm going to write down when you're going to be off based on when you told me what time you should be leaving that piece of equipment. Now, if I don't have a piece of equipment, I'm going to put your name on a little waiting list on the side, and then you're going to tell me where I can find you, whether it's over in the local cafe that's in the same building, or maybe you went to the weight room while you're waiting for your treadmill. Whatever the situation is, I would know where to find you. And I could either get somebody on a walkie-talkie to go get you, or I could come get you if I was slow enough, or if you were nearby, I'd just wave you over when your equipment was ready. But this idea, this cardio concierge concept that I'm calling cardio concierge, is essentially the same idea, except instead of you yourself signing up on a sheet before a specific class time when you're picking out one piece of equipment, you come in and you're assigned like tables in a restaurant when you arrive. Concepts have been used in other industries. I make the claim yet again. I know I beat this horse until it's dead, that this concept is common sense, that it is obvious to those in the industry and probably those outside of the industry, and should not be patentable. So for my current and future employers, if I bring this system to you or to anybody, or use it on my own for my own personal business, this is an idea that I had back in 2007, and I'm positive has been around longer and should not be enforceable as intellectual property by anybody I work for, because I bring you the idea. Just a heads up, I'm making this public video so that I can say that this was officially in the public domain on YouTube on August 13th of 2017. But again, I can produce evidence that these documents were at use in the public back in July of 2007 and September of 2009, respectively. Anyway. Tim Powell, Orlando, Florida, signing off. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I never have to show this video to anybody. But if I do, this has been public on YouTube since August 13th. Thanks, and good night.